This is episode 4 of the AV Antics podcast. We have not been canceled yet, so we're back here with another monthly podcast. We really appreciate everybody who's listened up until now. Depending on how editing magic worked, you may or may not have seen Milky Minute. You might have. This might be sliced in another way. I don't know. This episode's already off the rails, and I love it.
No way to know for sure.
But we are back with another episode. We do have a guest on this episode who will be joining us here in a little bit, Lou Hoxter, who is our engineering ops manager. But before we get Lou on, wanted to take just a minute to recap since InfoComm. I was not there. John was not there. It was the first time I have not been there in, I can't tell you how long, which was actually kind of refreshing. Not having to go again and do the rinse and repeat. But at the same time, I felt like I was missing things, which I don't like. It's that whole FOMO thing. So I recapped with a few folks that were there just to get an understanding, especially for us, right? So in terms of how we support different technologies, we must understand them first before we can support them. So for me, it's always on the forefront of my head. It's like, okay, what's on the horizon? What new technologies are existing? What's kind of the buzz around the show if like this is the next big thing? And John, I'm here to say it sounded like absolute nothing. It sounded like there's absolutely nothing on the horizon that anybody was excited about whatsoever. There's always a few, organizations that have some like niche things that are always like really cool. But I mean, like in terms of like real developed massive technologies with a wide array of adoption, didn't seem like there was anything there. It sounded like from what I experienced last year is that DVLED is now it's just last year it was like, you have now we have a solution organizations. And then this year it's like, okay, there's even more of those. Although there seemed to be, from what I was told, a lot of attrition in terms of some of the foreign manufacturers that really kind of like showcasing stuff over there. So like some of the Shenzhen companies that were just kind of independently showing at the show, that seemed to have eroded, but really like your big broad-based manufacturers like the Samsungs, the LGs, and even some of the smaller, more focused like UC manufacturers all seem to be developing some sort of direct view LED offering. So that seemed to be like the big thing still.
Do you think that that's a I mean, I know it's obviously been the newer display technology for the past couple of years now. Do you think that is an application that's difficult to differentiate yourself in? You think that's why we're not seeing like new and exciting technologies? Do you think do you think it's become like a Me Too kind of product? Do you think it's just
it is a Me Too product. I think everybody's riding that wave, right? And it's just like you look at any product release, right? There's a life cycle of products, like every product goes through, technology goes through. And I think right now it's that wave of like high demand, prices starting to come down because of the demand. So it's really that like, I don't want to say cash cow because there's more consistent. It's not like a burnout product, but it really is. That's what people are trying to deliver on because that's what's being, demand. The demand is being driven from the ground up. So even again, traditional organizations like you think about, like some of the larger direct view LED manufacturers that can do all kinds of customization and all that, you still have some smaller display manufacturers who don't have the same capability that are still introducing direct view LED options, more in the all-in-one solutions, really designing them around previous platforms that they have that are both in like UC or collaboration. Like you're seeing that as well. So I think everybody's jumping on it because it is a cool technology and we've talked about it a lot, but I was really hoping to just hear as an outcome from the show, like, hey, here's this next big thing that's on the horizon. And it didn't seem like that was whatever that thing is. It's not here yet. Interestingly enough, it kind of reminded me of when I was doing trade shows earlier in my career, when I worked for C2G, there was a bit of a lull with HDMI. Remember, so you had like the analog sunset, VGA going away, component video, composite video, all kind of being eroded as supported video technologies with the introduction of HDMI. But then it was like HDMI was there for a while and they're like, well, how about HDMI 1.0? That's pretty cool, huh? And they're like, what about HDMI 2.0? Even better, right? And then like 3.0, look how enhanced this HDMI is. And that was for like a period of 3 or 4 years. And everyone's like, yawning. They're like, okay, we're bored of this now. What's the next thing?
Well, the funny thing about the HDMI cable, well, that's interesting because when I remember when you were at C2G together, it was always interesting that obviously the quality of cables does matter. Like I'm not going to say that quality cables doesn't matter, but when it comes to digital signals, like an HDMI cable, it's all standardized, right? It's like HDMI cable plugged into an HDMI device, plugged into an HDMI port is going to perform as well as any other cable is going to from a video quality output, right? But people were so used to the analog days of like this is the highest quality cable with gold connectors and triple braided foil to present RF interference, that kind of stuff. And none of that stuff matters as much in HDMI cables. And we saw, like Monster cables and some of those brands back then, like use some of that old marketing about quality to upsell, a standardized cable. But it is interesting you mentioned about the direct view. In the past, a lot of these like traditional display manufacturers would come out with a new inventive idea for a screen or a new feature for a panel that like was unique, and then they would drive their own demand for that by like selling it and marketing. Say, hey, look what this new display can do that no one else can do, and then they would drive their own kind of momentum towards those products. But you mentioned that it's with direct view, the demand's coming from the bottom. Like it's coming from people want this, and now all these traditional manufacturers, your users trying to find ways to differentiate themselves, are now just kind of just getting whatever they can, so that they can keep. I mean, essentially, we have to keep up because everyone else is doing it, and the demand is there. And then now it'll be interesting to see what happens as they kind of start to form identity around those products and not just get it because we have to have it to be competitive or have to stay relevant or be on top of this. But like, I'll be interested where they can go within that vertical to find differentiation and find specificity among the other manufacturers.
Yeah, and I also think too, like you think about some manufacturers that are dominant, like in projector market, like an Epson or an Optima. Like, hey, this is where we've really thrived. So, and some of those organizations that have always been kind of dominant in the projector space, some of them do have LCD technology and likely probably have LED technology at this point. But you kind of look at like when we talk about like the cost collapse and you talk about the demand, what does that do to the projector marketplace? And how do you, if you're a projector manufacturer, how do you respond to that? So what are the features and benefits that are going to kind of outweigh what you can do in direct LED? And I'm sure there are some, and some have been articulated. But I think now from a value perspective, those things are starting to equalize. And it'll be interesting to see just in like the next year or two, what the response is going to be from other existing technology to kind of stay at the forefront and compete against direct VLED technology. Or are some of those manufacturers going to do kind of the same thing and go, we should probably come out with some sort of direct VLED lineup?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what happens with it long term. But I was a little disappointed to hear that there wasn't really anything super meaningful on the horizon. But I think I really do think the AV market, it's kind of nice. And we always look at like this technology evolution and everybody wants to kind of see the next best thing. But sometimes it is nice just to take a breath and go, all right, we're in a good spot right now. Let's stay consistent with what we have. There's still these new developed technologies that everybody's trying to understand and trying to implement. Let's not keep adding things to the fold to disrupt. Let's just maintain some consistency for a little bit, which doesn't happen in our industry that often because everybody's looking for that change. They're looking for that next big thing. You remember, this is how boring just the technology marketplace got a few years. Remember when they were like, hey, you remember wearing those stupid glasses that you could get from Wendy's and then you could go watch Third Rock from the Sun at your house in 3D? They're like, let's bring that back, but make it electronic. How long did that last? I mean, 3D technology and displays lasted for less than a year. I've never seen something fizzle out so fast, but it was in a response to like, things are getting boring. We got to throw something else.
It was a response to Avatar. Because Avatar was the biggest selling movie like in that year. And so everyone's like, oh, if we make a 3D TV that people can watch Avatar at home on. My father-in-law bought a 3D TV almost specifically just to watch Avatar. And I was like, we watched it one time. I was like, well, that was a waste of an extra like $1,500 to be able to have it.
Yeah. Do you remember? So some of the goggles that had come out were the ones with the shutter lenses, and it was like making people sick.
Yeah, I am firmly anti 3D viewing personally. I think it is.
Yeah,
I think it's clunky and silly.
I don't like 3D experiences at all. I don't know what it is. I mean, I understand someone trying to achieve this realistic aspect, but for me, I've never gotten into 3D. I think I've seen one 3D movie in theaters, and I was like, this sucks. Like, this was not fun at all. And I think it was like one of the Marvel movies, like earlier on. I was like, oh,
I took the
this is
kids. I
terrible.
took the kids to go see Avatar 2 in 3D because I figured the kids got kicked out, right? Because their brains don't work all the way yet. But it was like it was entertaining. But I think what's the difference between that kind of movie is it's like a movie that is filmed well and it is in 3D. A lot of times you make these movies, it'll be like a slasher film. It'll be like, Candyman 5 in 3D. And it's like they do all these
Right.
deliberate like shots where like a pickaxe comes out the screen and you go, like it's almost because they're designing it around the 3D stuff, they go out of their way to make these little stupid 3D moments and just feels like, okay, are you making this movie because it's actually good or you just make it because you want to throw stuff at my face and have me jump in my seat? Like,
The second one
Avatar
for
2
sure.
didn't do that to his credit, which I thought was refreshing. But I'm not gonna buy the 3D Blu-ray and watch it at home. That's for sure.
Well, what's interesting, even like about Avatar, is that you can watch it in 3D, but you can also watch it in like great high contrast color 4K. And to me, that's how I watched it when I actually finally saw it. And I was like, this is wonderful. Like, this is
It looks good.
wildly entertaining. It looked amazing. So I don't know that necessarily like my brain goes to, I also need this amplified 3D experience. And it's not even like this is good enough. I think it's just my preference is a certain thing.
Also,
at this point.
Jim Cameron, good at movies. Knows how to make movies.
True. Knows how to make movies. Man, it wasn't that in the works for like 30 years? Like the Avatars? It was like something crazy like that.
They signed a 5 years ago or something. They signed like a guaranteed 4-movie deal through like 2037 or something like that. Like he's got like guaranteed 3 more of those coming.
That's wild. That's insane. All right. Well, not a lot of insights from Infocom, so that was short and sweet.
We have better insights on Avatar, I think.
Definitely better Avatar insights for sure. It's a wonderful movie. I could talk about it for a long time. Plus, I have a blue background, so it's kind of fitting. I have a Milky costume, and I haven't decided whether or not I want to do it now or like wait for an actual like holiday opportunity.
Is there a national milk holiday?
There's got to be, dude. I mean, there's how many like national dog days are there throughout the year? I'm like, shouldn't you only have one? I was like, every time I go onto Instagram, it's like National Kiss Your Dog Day, and I'm like, how many of these dog days do we have? This has got to be a milk day for sure. Big Dairy has definitely got their own day. There's no doubt.
National Milk Day, not to be confused with the World Milk Day, is on. National Milk Day is January 11th, and it's in honor to observe the very first time that milk was delivered to homes inside the United States. We just missed National Milk Day. National Milk Day was June 1st.
Oh,
no. World Milk Day. World Milk Day was June 1st.
World Milk Day was June 1st. How did we not know to release an episode on June 1st?
World Milk Day, Saturday, June 1st, 2024.
Oh, boy.
What is... Oh, it's National Milk Day.
Oh, we're getting milky.
World Milk Day was established by the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations to recognize the importance of milk as a global food and celebrate the dairy sector. Each year since the benefits of milk and dairy products have been actively promoted around the world, including how dairy supports the livelihoods of 1 billion people.
So, question: when did they start it? When did International Milk Day become a thing? Is that on there? I'm gonna guess 70s or 80s. To be clear, the 1970s or 80s, not like 1870s or 80s.
World Milk Day, Cory, has been observed on the 1st of June every year since 2001.
Oh, wow. Late to the game. Dude, I'm telling you, Big Milk came in. Big Dairy came in and was like, we need our own holiday. Do we make a complete transformation of this podcast from predominantly AV content to predominantly white, milky, creamy content?
I mean, I think it's already happening. There's a good the Milky Minute is gonna have to become like the Milky I can't think of any other units of time that begin with an M.
Could we just call our podcast the Milky Way?
Mm-hmm. We call ourselves the Milk Boys. Not milkmen. We're not milkmen. We're milk boys.
We're not milkmen. Now, speaking of milk, since we're heavy into the topic, can we?
Yeah, we're gonna do it. Let's talk about milk right now because they're gonna spice it all in. They're gonna spice it all in. They have to do it.
Yeah.
They have to do it.
They have to do it. They have no choice. Let's talk about milk. What are you consuming milk this morning, John?
I am. And because it's hot, Cory, it's hot, and I'm trying to drink like refreshing beverages. I actually made myself a milkarita. So I got myself a nice milkarita here. So I'm really excited about starting my morning off. It's 9 a.m. Never too early to get started with a nice milkarita. So it just hits the right way. It hits the right way. 90 degrees here in Dayton, Ohio. We got the milkarita going. What about you, Cory? What do you got? What are you sipping on over there?
John, I am also drinking a milkarita with a salt.
Did you salt your rim? Oh, that's so gross. I can drink it. Drink with the salt. Drink through the salt.
I don't think I can do it. Oh, hear me out on this, though. Hear me out. I didn't do it because it was hot. I did it because of medicinal purposes. I'm currently seething poison ivy oils. So what I thought is I could just take the salt as an abrasive and just really cleanse out the poison ivy and then use the milk to soothe it. So it's two parts. It's two parts. It's medicinal and it's also appropriate for the heat.
Yeah.
Gonna beat the heat.
Drink it.
It's so gross. Oh, it's so gross. It's so salty. We are going to bring in our guest, which we're really excited about, Lou Hoxter, who is our engineering ops manager. Lou, I'm so glad to have you on because you're one of my favorite human beings. You're one of the sweetest, gentlest, kindest souls I've ever met in my life.
I really appreciate that.
Is that why you call him Sweet Lou?
That's why we call him Sweet Lou. And Lou, I have the business card right here that you made for me, which I'm going to show everybody right now. I'm just kidding.
No, it's okay.
Wildly inappropriate, and we would have
I spelled your name wrong. I apologize again for that. It's 2 L's.
Exactly. That when you made me that was really funny, and I can't show it on here. John, I'll show it to you sometime. It's pretty hilarious though. Lou has a, I don't know, did you do it on the 3D printer? Is that what you did?
It's laser engraving.
Laser engraving. Yeah, it was fantastic. So anyway, we have Lou with us, which we're really excited about. And we were just talking about that Lou looks like someone who would listen to podcasts, but in fact does not listen to podcasts, which I find fascinating.
I do not. Yeah, no, not a big fan. I usually, if I'm putting in headphones, it's music, pretty much always.
Except for of course AV Antics podcast.
Yeah, of course. But I have to do it on my computer so I can really see you guys. I got to get the full experience.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, watch us on the tubes. Now, so Lou, this is what's interesting because I am a huge music fan. Mm-hmm. Played music for a long time, and I believe a few people have called me a serial killer because when I tell them that I go to the gym and I listen to books or listen to like finance podcasts, they're like, "What is wrong with you? Something is very wrong with you." And I'm like, "Yeah, probably." Like I don't use music to amp me up at the gym. I literally listen to informative podcasts or books.
It's really interesting. For me, listening to music when I'm working out is helping me keep time and understanding where I am in my workout. So I feel like if I'm listening to a story develop, I would have no idea when I was.
Oh, interesting. So you're like, I know this song's 3.5, 4 minutes long. Okay, time to change equipment, change sets or whatever. Okay, yeah. I see that. So it's like the music is your gym metronome, essentially.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I like that.
I'm with you, though. I actually listen to podcasts more often than not at the gym because I feel like I have limited amount of time where I don't have like a child or someone like barking at me at all
Right.
times. So like if I have like an hour to myself that like I can actually listen to what I want to listen to and not have to deal with someone else's opinion on the matter, the gym's a usually a good place to do it. So it's
Yeah, for me, it's the clear mind. Like when I'm like, that's like my moment of everything exits my brain so I can allow good information in. Otherwise, I'm always distracted by stuff. Like I'll have music in the background when I'm working because I don't have to. Because I imagine like having an audiobook on while you're working. Like you wouldn't retain anything. So like the gym is just that like clear peace, clear mind thing for me. But yeah, I've definitely had people who are like, "What's wrong with you? It doesn't even make sense." Because there's like
Now, do you listen?
there's specific like playlist built for the gym. They're like gym playlist. And you know, you get all kinds of you just get a myriad of things. And I'm like, nah, I could do without it.
Do you listen to the same podcast, or do you kind of like just pick a random one and go into it?
I am all over the place. I am all over the place. I love comedy podcasts. So I listen to a ton of comedy podcasts. I listen to a lot of informational podcasts, history podcasts. I mean, honestly, it's a mood thing. It's really a mood thing. It's like if I'm in the mood to learn something, then I'll go into one of the finance podcasts or history podcasts. If I just want to laugh, comedy. If I want to just get deep into a book, I'll just do a book. And yeah, it's.
Are you like that musically too? Kind of all over the place with genres?
I am so all over the place when it comes to music. My Spotify playlist is an anomaly. Like I've had so many people go, "What?" It transitions from one song to another. Like, what? Like, why that to that? I'm like, I can't explain.
I had to sign up for a Spotify family plan to give my kids their own Spotify like accounts because they kept messing up my algorithm so much because they not only they listen to a bunch of trash music, but they listen to the same trash songs on repeat all the time. So like I'd have like It's Raining Tacos as like number 5 listened to songs. And then like Spotify's like, you must want to listen to more It's Raining like snack food like songs.
Yeah.
And it's
You're like, nah, I don't want that.
No, it's horrible.
That's what
I just had that little intro in my head from It's Raining Tacos. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Oh, my
is that one
daughter.
of your gym beats?
My daughter's completely ruined my YouTube. Like completely. I'm like, I don't know how many Miss Rachel or Blippy and whoever their names are pop up on YouTube now. And I'm like, no, where are my car videos? Like they've all disappeared. She's completely, why haven't I started her own account? I don't know. Why do I keep doing it on my account? It's my fault.
YouTube Kids, you can link it to your own account. That way it's all parental guidance. You gotta catch up, man. Your kid's getting old enough that you're going to start figuring this stuff out.
The fact that she knows how to use a remote now is scary. So yeah, I do need to figure that out. Anyway, so Lou.
Yeah.
Happy to have you on. We've got some questions for you. I actually thought about like before I got on here is that if I dressed up, like John and I dressed up with like button up white shirts and ties, that we could be like the Bobs. But I'm like, I do not want to throw Lou into a spiral. So I was like, let's keep it cash, you know?
I appreciate that. If I had walked into here and it was just like a black tie event, I would have probably had that actual panic attack I warned about. So thank you for that.
So
next time, though.
The first question I had for you is that's a pretty sweet chair you got there. Is that a pretty nice gaming chair? Can you tell us about that chair you got?
Yeah, so I was at, what was it, E4? Was that where we were? And we were doing a giveaway, and this was put together, I mean, masterfully, and I couldn't leave it. I had to take it with me.
Yeah,
so
nothing wrong with it, right?
No, it's wonderful. I did pick up the rest of the pieces that we were missing, so it's back to 100%.
Now what's interesting is the person who assembled that chair I've known for a considerable amount of time, and I don't know that I've seen said person that frustrated in a long time.
You know, they're tricky things.
There's nothing wrong with that chair. There's nothing wrong with that chair
at all.
Which is the most reassuring thing to say at a show. Anytime someone walks by, there's nothing wrong with that chair.
Now the great part about that specific chair is that it is gently used, and we had watched so many people sit in that chair, and I'm not kidding you, so many times they go, who's going to be the person that falls out of it? Who's going to be, because everybody was reclining in it and everybody's like jostling around like, ooh, this is comfortable. I'm like, that whole thing is going to fall apart in 5 seconds. And it never did.
You can't see. I actually have pillows all around the floor just for when it does drop. I'm safe, so we're set.
You're just hovering on a mattress right now.
wasn't the plan originally that we were going to have that show, because we gave it away as a prize to someone at the booth, and we were going to have it there. There's like a showcase it, and then we were going to take it back apart and put it back in the box and ship it to said winner. And we realized that we'd be doing that person a disservice by sending this like twice reassembled chair. And then didn't Lou just get it because he's like, I can fit it in my car and drive it home.
I had a car.
Yeah. So
Well, they didn't send the de-assembly instructions, so it was very hard to get apart.
it was not, because I helped you load your car with all these random pieces of a of a gaming chair, which it was fine, right? Enough pieces to reassemble, which is great.
Oh yeah.
We learned our lesson because that was the first time. Now we just have this cool little plaque that says, "Win a gaming chair, we'll just ship this thing to you."
Yep.
There's nothing wrong.
Rest assured, it's very comfortable, and there really is nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I like that. I do like that chair. I actually thought about buying one, and I ended up getting this one, which I still like, but I like the leather. Just looks cool. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have the
feel
leather.
good.
I've like the more suede feel, which is nice, but it's just different.
The only downside is people think I'm like a podcaster, and I'm like, no, it's just a chair.
The worst, right? Just the
It's
worst.
the worst.
I know you have all the makings of podcaster, but none of the interest apparently. Zero.
You know,
A middle-aged guy with headphones and a gaming chair is all that makes him
I've got everything.
That's funny. So Lou, you and I have known each other for a while.
Yeah.
I've known you back to the quadrillion days. And I was curious, and John and I were talking about this a little bit. You know, when we first started in our organization introducing services, everything was surrounding installation because that seemed to be the need at the time for customers was, hey, I need more bodies to do more things and more facilities and so on. And then Quadrillion was built in a way to support the same community, but from like an engineering and drafting perspective. So from your experience, at what point did you realize that this is a real thing for our integrators? Like, this is a business that can really take off, that there's a high desire, there's a high need, and that it's something that as we move forward is going to have a high rate of adoption. I mean, we've seen that in the past few years that, I mean, customers are really utilizing us a lot for this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Quadrillion was a very new thing, and it was kind of a very small startup business, so it was intimidating. But I was coming from a company that had a queue of probably 100 projects in the queue waiting to be addressed. And if that was just one company that had that much need, I felt very confident that more and more folks were dealing with that. So, I mean, really, it's solutions across the board. Everyone just needs help. It's hard to find good help, and anything that you can do to support that, there's a business for.
Yeah, I got an interesting, not that I'm going to call out the customer on this, and it's not like a call. I just don't want to use their name in case they don't want me to use their name. But we had someone ask us just this morning for, it was something to do with JavaScript on, I don't think it was Poly. I forget what it was, but it was a unique opportunity to create some macros for some, which we don't inherently have the capability or experience, not the capability, but the experience with the platform to do it. But as we're kind of assessing and looking through it, we go, yeah, I think this is something we can definitely do because we have a experience with people being able to write in Java and the whole thing. And it's almost like even some of those weird things like the specialization. And I often, one of the things I like to articulate to our customer base and even the AV community as a whole is like, you know, specialization is a real thing too, because not everybody can know everything. And there are pockets of what we do that are more highly specialized. So for you, like, are you looking, I know it's difficult to understand what's coming in the future. Oftentimes, like, what's going to be that next thing that everybody's going to want. But for what we do now, do you feel like the base, the foundation where we have can really support our customers for the long term? And then also, two-part question, what do you anticipate are going to be like the next needs in terms of like drafting and engineering that people may want to utilize us for or will have a desire for in the future?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of cheat here because I really am gonna go back to the people that we have. We have such a strong team and we have so much experience and a diversity in what we've done in the industry that when I look at like our needs right now, I still don't even look at it like we have products that we're selling. We're fielding individual problems and we're finding solutions for them. We just have the parts and pieces between the people that we have.
Right.
So when looking at like what the future is going to bring, I don't know, but I know it's going to require really intelligent, motivated people who care about what they're doing and care about the end result. And I feel like we have that. So I feel like that's the hedge against whatever the future is, in my opinion.
Well, as a salesperson who has to only like halfway understand how you guys do what you do, but also be able to articulate that as best I can to customers, I kind of I get to have these conversations where people come to me and they'll say, you know, hey, I have a need for this type of engineering support, and it doesn't always sound like, when I first hear the request, like, oh, that's exactly what we do, or that's a perfect fit for us. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, we probably not gonna be able to do that. And then I'll send it over to you and the team, and then the answer I get almost always is, yeah, we could probably figure that out, or yeah, we could probably do that. And so what I found refreshing and encouraging about working with the team is our adaptability and flexibility and willingness to like try things. Like, I think like you said, we're not selling a product. This isn't like, here is the thing that we do and here are the things that we don't do. It's, here are the things that we do well and the things that we can like really excel at, but we can also, be flexible, and we can learn a new thing, and we can try things creatively. And I think more often than not, those end up being opportunities that we find that we can help customers out with, which I think is, I look at it more of like we're selling. I mean, think about engineering, right? Engineering is solving problems or coming up with or building solutions, right? And so like we don't sell like I said, a product. We sell solving problems, and I think that's something that like is really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that. I remember like early on when I would do sales calls, it would be like, okay, what's your presentation? It's like, I don't have a presentation. It really is just, what's your problem? What can we actually step in to help us, find a solution for? It is the easiest thing to communicate and to talk about, because it really is just asking questions. But I always feel guilty on the sales side because I don't give you much to work with. I'm like, just go find out what's wrong and we'll figure it out. But I think we do a good job of evaluating what those asks are, but really looking at the team, because there are things that we don't have the skill set, that we feel confident being able to execute effectively, and we do give that feedback back, and that is how we build the team moving forward. So we don't just jump on everything, but we do have the depth that everything seems pretty feasible.
Yeah, what's interesting too is like even in the instances, and this is more kind of interrelated to the programming side, but obviously not dissimilar to the engineering side as well, is that when you do run in those instances, or let's just say there seems to be a pattern of certain asks, and maybe we don't quite have whatever that thing is fine-tuned. We have, like you said, we have the people and we have the capability to go learn and explore. It's like, hey, if there is a need and we're hearing it repeatedly, we can react to it, which oftentimes, our customers there's times where they're in a precarious position and they need somebody with a certain level of expertise, or it's like, hey, I don't have the resource for this. I mean, that's why people outsource in general. But it's great also that our reaction can be, we're not highly proficient, but it is something that we can and will learn, if it makes sense. And I think that's why it's interesting, because I always had this mindset, and this was years ago, so this isn't like now, but like working with integrators as long as I have over my career, you always just assume every integrator has everything. They have it all. They can just take care of everything all the time. And then you quickly learn that, hey, they are often like moving pieces around on the chessboard. Like, I need to move this here so I can do this here. And it's this constant thing of where you're creating motion around all these different pieces to get to driving the outcome that you want to drive for your end user. And oftentimes that's a very challenging thing to do. So from the perspective of having outsourcing capability, oftentimes relieving that pressure or offering up the specialization is a means to make sure that with that customer, you're providing good outcomes for their end user. Because we hear it all the time where our integrator partners are working on very complex projects and there's all these moving pieces, and there's times where we fit nicely, like really nicely into one part of it. There's times where we fit really nicely into like three parts of it. And it's really great. I think probably we all have this ambition, love seeing what we have available to our customers solve those problems, like fill in those gaps, to where it's always great when you relieve that pressure for a customer and they go, thank you so much for all your help on this. It's like there is a sense of, which I never personally got, and this is not like a disparaging comment, but I never personally got that kind of feeling when I was selling hardware, which I had done pretty much my entire career. I never got that pridefulness or that attachment to, like, hey, we actually did something really cool for our customer. And oftentimes you can feel that pressure. Like, I've talked to customers on the phone, I know we all have, where you can feel their intensity, you can feel that pressure, you can feel that burden on their shoulders, and you just go, hey, I'll take that burden off of you. Let us handle it. And you see that relief. And then when the project's over, it's that oh, thank you so much for your help. Now it's like deeply entrenched. Now that partnership is a real true partnership. And now everybody's kind of like married together in this thing that we can continue to perform into the future, which is really cool. It's unique. It's so unique to what we do that a lot of places don't do. Sorry, that was like really long. That was
that wasn't even a question. That was just you rambling for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was like, and no, I agree though. There is something so satisfying because I got into the industry doing equipment sales. That was like my first job was kind of as a sales guy, and then I moved my way into design, engineering, service, and all of that. And it is such a different feeling because you're hearing a problem. You're not hearing a want. You're not hearing I want a conference room or we need to be able to do this. You're hearing someone who's trying to run a business and running into issues that are causing them to not be as successful. And being able to address that, like we know what that feels like for us when we find those solutions in our day to day, and knowing that we can provide that is really, really rewarding.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, I always tell people like what's interesting about what we do, and this goes to the problem solving aspect, is like we are very much a sold not bought product. Like we aren't an on the shelf, grab it, pack it up, and ship it. Part of what we have to do intentionally is understand our customers' business enough to know where we can support them, and that's just a different type of dialogue, and it creates a different kind of relationship with your customers as well. Oftentimes, like you get deeply entrenched and you understand the overall strategy, and I think that's really unique from the engineering perspective. When you're really working at the inception of a product, it's like you're pretty deeply entrenched in that. It's like now this is a true partnership. You're walking hand in hand through this entire process, which I think is really cool and really unique because the relationships that you can cultivate by those kinds of experiences are invaluable to both sides of the business. So it's really cool to see.
It's interesting, in my role, selling both our like internal engineering services and also selling our installation services. The people who come to us for install, and this is not to disparage installation services or what we do at all, but it's much more turnkey. It's much more coin operated. I need a guy here. Can you provide that? And I don't know what the return rate is on people who come back to us again. And maybe the next time a need pops up, but it's much more. It feels much more transactional a lot of times. Whereas I think the return rate of someone who comes and uses us for an engineering service, a drafting project, a programming need, the amount of times that they come back and ask for help again, or they're asking for help on an ongoing basis, or they become essentially like a return customer on a weekly or monthly basis, I think is very high. I think because we just said, Cory, we are not just checking a box or filling a gap, to put a ribbon around a project. We are much more strategically engaged with not just a project, but like with their overall business strategy. Or maybe it's a lot of times people, they transition a person from one role to another, and now they don't have an engineer on staff, and they need their help for 6 months where they get someone ramped up. Like for 6 months, we are like their engineering team, and they need us, every day.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I was actually going to say, with our technical services, especially with being white label and with working within the structure that a company's already built, we really are joining the team. We're coming in, we're trying to do the work like you. We're trying to work with your team to integrate. So we're not just selling a solution and sending it. We are there and a part of what you're doing. So we do become a part of everything, and we do become a part of that solution moving forward because we've built that familiarity. We understand the standards that you use and the expectations, the communication flow. All of that is something that we try to integrate with. We're not just producing a product and handing it over.
Yeah, I think the flexibility that we offer up and as a means to do that is definitely, I think that's a definitely unique characteristic of how we approach, how we integrate with our customers versus maybe some of our competitors. I'm not saying that they do or don't, but it really is like, let me understand how your business works so I can very discreetly work my way in and fill those gaps, and do so in a way that isn't going to create disruption. The whatever we're driving, whatever the outcome's supposed to look like, would not differ if you were to do it yourselves. It's going to look exactly the same. The desired outcome is going to be exactly the same. And I think that is unique for us in terms of our approach to that. Now, Lou, I have a question, and we ask this question of all of our guests, is you're the engineering ops manager. So if you're at a cocktail party, which I don't know how many times you're at cocktail parties, probably not often, how would you describe what you do to somebody?
Oh man, that is, anytime someone's like, "Oh, what do you do?" I freeze for a solid minute because it's either I try to explain that I'm like, "Oh, it's audiovisual distribution. We create services and solutions, and And then I'm essentially I work at Best Buy, and that's like what they've come to. Or if I'm feeling bold and I'm like, well, I'm in engineering, that's the one person that's like, what kind of engineering? I'm a nuclear engineer,
Yeah.
and then I have to be like TVs, and it doesn't land the same. So I honestly, I usually just avoid the conversation entirely.
I can imagine Lou, someone asking Lou that question, and then you just get up and walk away. You're just like, well.
It's funny.
It's like,
It's funny how many of us the what people hear is I work at Best Buy. No matter how hard you try and spin, like, oh yeah, so we're behind the scenes and we're supporting the professional AV market. And if you were to build a new BW3s, we would be the ones who was talking to the customers who are designing the systems. And they're like, oh yeah, so you sell TVs? Like, yeah, that's
yeah, and they're like,
I sell TVs.
That's awesome, because I've been trying to get my TV to turn off at night automatically, and you're like, I can help. That's fine.
Yeah,
I like the idea that you have
that do
I like
that.
that you have the added wrinkle of you have engineer in your title, and you can say to someone that I'm an engineer. They go, great, I build bridges. What do you build? And you're like,
nothing of comparison.
I draw little lines together, and they theoretically make an AV system.
Oh yeah.
Hey, it's just as important, depending on the application. No, that's good though. I mean, we asked the question almost rhetorically because most of the time it's a very similar answer. I dread answering that question because of the same thing. So I keep it like very high level, and when I do it, I don't make eye contact because I don't want there to be more questions asked. So I just say it. And I kind of
like you're ashamed of yourself. You just like look at your feet and like, I'm the services VP.
Oh. Don't envy my job. Lou, curious, because you've been doing this for a long time, what are some of the coolest projects you've seen come across? Like, what are some of the funnest things that the team has worked on, that you've worked on, either unique applications or just really cool experiences overall?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it has been quite a while. We've had some experience with doing like outdoor like audio, like stadiums, almost like amphitheaters, which was really cool. And we've had a couple of clients, this is earlier on, where we did some experiential sort of like really interactive places. So like a mall that had a lot of like interactive video walls and touch panels, and all of that sort of immersion is really neat. And it's not the sort of thing that I have like the most experience with, the highest skill set in, which is one of the reasons it was really cool, because you really get to see these things functioning in a way that you've never kind of considered before, and you get to see how they're used alternatively outside of conference rooms and boardrooms that we see 95% of the time. So I'd say anything that, especially with live music, having a live music background, like being able to, there was one time I did the audio design for a local restaurant's outdoor system. It was right down the street from me, so I got to hear it every time I went for a walk, and I got to be like, I did that.
Yeah,
and it wasn't even, it was just a small restaurant, and yet I felt like a sense of pride there.
So you juiced it up as big as you could so you could hear it from around the corner?
Exactly. I need to catch those tunes.
And what is interesting is we do have folks on the team that have music backgrounds that are, very much like understand how all of that works. It's not, we do a lot of that traditional conference room pro AV, but because of the backgrounds and experience and knowledge, there's a wide array of things that we can do. And I really love those unique projects, because I like not that I want to call conference rooms cookie cutter necessarily. It's not that, because they're all kind of uniquely different. But when you think about the AV ecosystem of product that's kind of injected into those spaces, it's all pretty similar. And even from a layout perspective, is with obviously some differences from one to another, it's like fairly similar. I always like those really off the wall, crazy opportunities. Like there was one that we worked on, and this is actually, we worked on with Justin before the Quadrillion acquisition. And it was someone who wanted just to build out like a podcast studio. And it was really cool. It was Justin on the call. It's like, hey, there's this like really cool conceptual idea. We want to build out this really unique podcast studio. And it's like, we'd never really done that before. Never really been asked that, but it was the experience of just kind of going through it was really cool.
Yeah, I love the things that open you up. Like, it's not like I don't go into a boardroom and I don't look around, but it's anytime I'm somewhere that actually has a unique system, I'm always looking. I don't know if you guys do the same. We're looking up to see what they're using, how they're driving it. Anytime there's an equipment rack, I always have to peek through it just to see what brands and what types of systems. Those sorts of things that you get to touch and interact with a little more, indirectly, as opposed to like conference room, you do the same thing all the time. But like going to a show and being able to see the music and the lights and just how everything comes together is really cool. And getting to do that from the other end, getting paid to do that, and to see those connectivity, that's a really rewarding and fun project.
I've always kind of looked at it from and this is probably more back to when I was in wire and cable manufacturing, is I would love to take a peek behind displays to see what was being run. And there's times where I'm like, could be better. Like,
When,
how are you still using component video with losers? Yeah, you're not running HDMI yet.
when I was working at Mid-Atlantic still, there was like an after hours thing. A bunch of us went out after like a meeting. And there was like we were at a bar restaurant that had like a stage. There's no one performing that had like a stage, and there was like a wall mounted rack kind of up high, so you could like see underneath it, and it was like kind of like back behind the stage, and like all these like guys like were like crawling up on the stage, like peeking up, looking at it, and like some like bar manager came over and was like, "What are you guys doing? You can't be back here." And they're like, "We built that rack," and he's like, "I don't care. Like, you can't be like, you know, this is off limits. You're not supposed to be here. Like, get out of here, nerds."
Walk on the stage. Yeah, I know. I found myself doing that a lot. I don't do as much anymore, and it's mostly because I don't know if I'm just desensitized to technology as a whole, and you just see it so much over a period of time. There's definitely times I will, especially if like we have some clients that we consistently work with, and they have clients that we consistently work with, so the end user. And a lot of them are very public companies. So if I'm like in any one of those stores or any one of those organizations, I'll be like, I'll just peek around and be like, yeah, we service that. We did that. That's us. Yep, for sure. And then if there's like something like weird with a video wall because someone ran into it and it's off kilter, I'm like, that wasn't an us. But also I know how to fix that if you need me to fix that too. I've literally told a store before that we perform work, like actually work for, and it was these 2x2 video walls, these NEC displays. There was one panel that you could tell someone had tried to service it or other, and it was just off axis a little bit. And I was like, I can fix that for you if you want. And they're like, it was like probably a 17-year-old girl. And she was like, I'm good. I don't know. I kind of don't know where to begin with.
I don't care.
It was like me bragging, like, we can do that. And I can do that. It's not a problem. We can do that. We can fix that for you. And she's just like, I don't give it. I don't
care. And she's just texting her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here.
Care not. So Lou, like in anticipation for, I know it's tough to predict the future, but what are perhaps you most excited about in terms of like opportunities for the engineering team as we move forward into like next year, the year after, the year beyond? Like, what are your ambitions for the team overall?
Yeah, I love the idea that we'll still be here. So that's awesome. I've gotten really excited about the idea that, we did the CAD and working with our integrator partners for half a dozen years, I think, before coming on board here. And so we have a lot of experience with that. We've had a lot of success with that, but we have this now, like this relationship with manufacturers that we didn't have before, and this access to all of this additional data and support that we can begin to provide that I'm really excited about, because what we do isn't just, as we mentioned, just putting CAD drawings together or putting together a program, but it's also supporting systems and projects and experiences. And I think that there's more that we can do in support of the other phases of projects that we're not quite there yet with, like manufacturer support and really aligning the data and the information between, what our engineering teams are going to need versus what is actually provided and things like that. So having all of this access and having working with such a large company now and having so many people and so many individuals who have so much experience, I think we can do a lot more. So expanding our reach with what we're doing is really exciting, not just going deep with what we're already doing.
I like that. That's a good answer to that question, by the way.
Thank you.
Lou, would you describe yourself as an optimist?
I am cautiously optimistic. I am patient and persistent.
You seem very optimistic. I like that about you, man.
You're very optimistic, and you're also very caring. You probably don't like hearing this praise, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, because you are one of the few folks that I've interacted with in business for an extended period of time that, like, you will continually just check on people. Like, you check on me probably 2 or 3 times a week, and I suck at that. And
you've got a lot more people to check on.
It's not that I don't care. I do. I love everybody, and I care. But like, you will take the time, just even if it's in a Teams message, like, "Hey, how you doing today? How's everything going?" Yeah. And that's very sweet, and it's very kind. And when you first started doing that, I was like, "Is he being genuine, or is this like distant? Like, what is this?" Because I wasn't used to it. But obviously, as I've gotten to know you better over time, like, it's just you being sweet and genuine and thoughtful and caring. And I'm like, I really appreciate it. And then I've tried to inject that more and more in my everyday, to the point where I've set and this may make it disingenuous, where I set calendar reminders.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, because you care and your intention is to check in, even if it's not a part of your regular process. That's how we do anything.
Yeah, I just don't do it with Borns. Borns, you're the only person I don't do that with.
You guys are talking about checking on each other. I always love those. No one checks on me at all. I'm just sitting here just like I need someone to check on me too. I am not doing well.
You're like, shit is going off the rails.
I am struggling. So please check on me, guys.
All right, adding that to my list. So I make sure to check on John now.
Check on John. John, you will get checked on a lot now. You'll feel so cozy and comfortable.
Yeah.
Now, not to make this like a preachy thing, but talking about optimism, like I was told that perception's reality, right? And what people think about a situation is exactly how they're dealing with that situation. And when something comes across my desk or hits me in the face and it's like, man, this sucks, I'm gonna be dealing with it either way. And I can either deal with it with a disposition where I'm positive and optimistic about it, and I'm gonna be moving forward with the same steps, or I can kind of be down and take my emotion energy low. But what's the point in that? I'm just dealing with the same thing with less cheer.
And that's a great way. I like the perspective there. I used to do this a lot. I don't do it as much anymore. This is when the team was much smaller, and then the challenges of COVID and trying to operate a business during turbulent times. There always seem to be these. We talk about solving problems. When I say problems, these are like real. It wasn't just providing solutions to customers' burdens. It was like, these are real like problems that can get very hairy very quickly. And, the sentiment from the team at that time, just being overwhelmed with everything just going on in the world, and everybody's already kind of feeling down. They're like, look at this, we got to deal with this issue now, we got to do this. And my response always used to be good, which they didn't like until I provided context to why it's good. And they're like, this is not good, this is a problem. I was like, but this gives us the opportunity to solve something. And that's what's really cool about what we do. And unique to what we do is that in the moment, it feels turbulent and it feels like a lot of pressure, because that pressure from our customers is kind of being broadcast to us. Not that it's intentional or it's malicious. It's just everybody's in it together. And I'm like, good. This now gives us an opportunity to solve a problem. That's a good thing that's why we're here. We're here for our customers. This is what we do for a living, is solving these problems. Things are going to be uncomfortable, but we get the chance to provide a great solution to a customer and solve their problems for it. Like, how cool is that? You can take a lot of pride in that kind of work. So I always loved saying that. And the team at the time hated it, because we're literally like, I'm dealing with this and this person doing this and this person didn't show up here, and then we got to do this. I'm like, good. And they're like, no, there's nothing. You don't have to deal with it. It's not good. I'm like, no, it's good. Because now we get to solve something. Like, that's good. Like that gives us the opportunity to be better for our customers. So I like the positive perspective is what I'm saying.
No, I totally agree. I think about relationships. How often would you like to just know the right thing to do so you can do it? And business is no different. It's nice to just know what needs to be done, that we can help it, solve it, and everything's good.
Of course. Yep.
I think the problem that we're going to have to solve now, Cory, is I think if we run much longer this podcast, we're going to get yelled at by marketing. So,
Lou, thank you for joining us. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully this wasn't too much of a burden for you and you felt comfortable in the whole thing. You're so great to talk to. Like, I know you don't want to. I want you to talk more.
We'll see how I feel after I watch this one and cringe at everything I respond with. But this was really fun, and I appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
awesome.
and just as a cheap plug, real quick before we depart. So, Lou, you did an interview with Tom Kerr, which I believe will probably be live. I'm not sure when it'll be released, but I think it'll be released soon. And I got to preview that interview, and I thought it was wonderful. So if you're listening to this now, by the time this comes out, that'll probably already be available. So you can see it on our YouTube page. You'll probably see it on LinkedIn as well. So check that out. It's a really, really insightful interview. I thought it was so well done. And then, of course, you can catch this episode on pretty much anywhere, right? I've been told all podcast platforms, although I have not checked. But you can also see it on YouTube.
I've only checked YouTube, so I just assume that's enough.
Yeah, because you got to watch the Milky Minute to experience it. You can't hear it. So
that's exactly right.
Lou, make sure when you watch this back that you catch the Milky Minute. I don't know
that you'll have a way to miss it, if I'm being honest.
You can't.
I am so delighted.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining us. This will conclude episode 4. It's crazy that we've done 4 already. So that's fantastic.
Season 1, episode 4, Cory. Season 1,
episode 4. And then we'll be back with everybody like in a month from now, or a month and a half. Who knows? Don't know what
whenever they yell at us and tell us we haven't done it yet.
Correct. That's exactly when we'll be back. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you later.